Welcome to Paws Unplugged, the podcast that dares to go raw, real, and radically different in dog care. We're here to question everything from vaccines to kibble and get back to nature's blueprint for raising healthy, thriving dogs.
If you're a dog lover who's ready to think outside the vet's office, challenge the norm, and embrace the untamed path, you're in the right place. Come join us twice a month as we unplug from the undoctorated narrative and dive into the wild world of natural rearing. It's time to let instinct lead. Let's get unplugged. Disclaimer, we aren't licensed medical professionals, and the information we're sharing is for educational purposes only. How you choose for yourself or your dog is your personal choice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paws Unplugged, where we're going to talk about gastropexy, bird flu, and dew claws. These are some great subjects we want to talk to everyone about. But before we start that, I just want to know who listened to our last podcast on autism. Blow your mind? What do you think about that? Leave a comment if you've got anything that you would like to add about what we had to say about that. It's pretty crazy. So this episode, the first topic we're going to cover is gastropexy, which is a surgical procedure that the vets insist is life-saving medical procedure, preventative life-saving medical procedure, but it is fueled by fear and profit. Our next topic will be bird flu in dog food. I'm sure if you are a raw feeder, you have heard a lot about this going around, where it's another scare tactic designed to manipulate dog owners into abandoning raw feeding, because we've got some things to say about that, but why we think that is happening. And then our third subject is dew claws. It's a misunderstood part of canine anatomy that many vets and breeders still remove them, which we believe are unnecessarily. It's a little controversial, but it is changing. So we want to discuss those three topics. And Lorina, would you like to get us started on our first subject of the insanity of gastropexy? Why is it insane? Tell me what's crazy about it.
Okay, so first off, I love that I'm going to talk about this particular part of this segment in our podcast today, because this is something that is brought up. I breed Great Danes, so I'm involved a lot in a lot of Great Dane communities, right, on Facebook, wherever it's going to be at, I'm going to be in there. And this procedure, the gastropexy, is one that is highly recommended, especially for deep-chested dogs. So Great Danes are one of those types of dogs. Mastiffs are one of those kind of dogs. German Shepherds are those kind of dogs. Even golden retrievers could be categorized as a deep-chested dog. And what gastroplex surgery is all about is to help or stop the stomach from twisting. And so if you don't understand what that really means, it means that when a dog bloats, the stomach twists, and you have very small amount of time to get your dog to a vet for them to correct it so your dog won't die. That's basically what it is, okay? So that's bloating. Let's just use that word for it. It's called bloating. When your dog bloats, yeah. These are the things that can happen to your dog. So what could stop this? Here we have this surgery for you. We're going to sew that stomach right up, make it nice and tight, have the abs that they've always wanted, and it's not going to twist, which is like, wow, this is life-saving.
It does sound intriguing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Like, oh my God, I would definitely want that, especially since this is an issue with my breed. Right. Why wouldn't I? But here's the problem. Just because you have this surgery doesn't mean bloat doesn't happen. It just means bloat happens, and what happens to your dog within a sewed up stomach is horrific even more. So let me share some things that has occurred with dogs that have bloated with this gastroplex already in place. There's lots of stories in these Great Dane groups that talk about when the bloat occurs and the stomach can't maneuver with that bloat, the gas comes up into the esophagus and they bloat out and die through their esophagus.
I didn't even know that.
It is horrific. These are horrific things that happen. The stomach doesn't twist and they just bloat and basically like blow up inside their body. Like this is what happens.
That's
And
insane.
the procedure, they sell it to you as the cure. Okay. They really kind of sell it to you as this is going to cut 95 of the percent of it down.
Yeah.
Does it just puts false hope on a situation that the only reason bloat occurs. Now, here's the topic that people don't want to talk about, especially in these groups. Bloat only occurs with kibble because of carbohydrates. Eat kibble. Every time your dog eats kibble, it bloats every single time.
Uh,
Now,
the kibble expands.
it's
The dry
expand it
kibble is
expands and it
expanding.
bloats the tummy, right? Like
Yeah.
let's just say we eat, we go out, we indulge in pasta. Let's just use that one. And you're like, oh, I'm butting that one top button up there because I'm a little bloated from the food. Well, they don't have pants on to unbloat so their stomach can kind of hang out and they can kind of let that, digest. Dogs will eat and then they want to go outside and relieve themselves. Unfortunately, when they go outside, they run around, they do some things, and this causes more effects of that stomach
Twisting.
to twist, right?
Yep.
Okay, now if the stomach can't twist, that bloat has to go somewhere. It doesn't just stay there and go, okay, we'll just relax and let it go down. It starts manifesting and going in other areas, which can most of the time come out the esophagus area, which is where they choke and they die. It's quite horrendous when people talk about it with their dogs in these groups of what
It
they have to watch.
it's really becoming a standard issue procedure with spay and neuter these days. And so you're talking about deep chested dogs. It's common in Danes. So I have a friend who has a mini something. It's full grown 7 pounds. I don't know. It's a little mini dog. And, she had gone to the vet for a quote for getting her spayed. And she said, or it was a boy getting him neutered. And she's like, do you think I should get the stomach stapled when they do it? They told me that he was going to die and get bloat if I didn't do it. And this is on a little mini, like I said, full grown 7 pound dog. They're just literally taking it standard issue with every spay and neuter. And she was something that she had never worried about in her little dog. Now she's terrified if she doesn't do it, her dog is going to get bloat and die.
Yeah.
It is
It's
fear.
it is a matter of it's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's when will it happen. And the problem is it happens because of the foods that they're eating, right? It's the kibble, it's the expansion of the carbohydrates, it's the bloating from the carbohydrates. And when you have a deep chested dog, it happens. It happens to all kinds of size dogs. Like let's say it only is deep chested. It just happens more often in deep chested dogs because of how the expansion happens in the stomach, in that cavity is able to twist much easier because of that, right? And so this is a completely unnecessary surgery for a dog. For one, it doesn't solve the problem. Okay. One of the things that I can tell all the listeners here is what could solve this problem. Well, first, stop feeding your freaking dog kibble. Okay. That's number one. But if you are going to feed your dog kibble, don't let it go run around for an hour. Let it rest, let it digest its food, and then let it go outside at least an hour later. And I'm talking about feeding treats when you're training. That's not enough food to cause bloat, right? Even if it's a couple handful and you're doing training and it's a little at a time, it's how they eat, they gulp,
Right.
they
They
digest the
inhale their
food.
food. They
Yeah.
just they swallow their food and they swallow these hard crisp hard kibble chunks and then they get into the stomach. They expand when they're in there. Then they are getting the gas, then their stomach is twisting. It's a completely unnecessary medical intervention, but it is a reaction to a problem that had yet another problem that has been caused by kibble.
Yep.
Another reason why you don't ever want to feed your dog kibble, because this is not a problem seen in the raw dog food community, in the raw feeding community. It's not.
Yep.
It's not
And
something that people worry about in the raw feeding community.
And if you've had this surgery done, you're thinking, holy shit, I had this surgery done for my dog. What do I do now? What you do now is you make sure every time they eat that they rest for an hour before you let them go out and play.
Yeah.
What you need to do is stop feeding kibble if you're still feeding kibble, so you can lessen the chances of bloat happening, right? Make sure your raw food that you're feeding doesn't have carbohydrates in it. You're not putting rice and potatoes and lots of vegetables and adding all of those kind of carbohydrate or oats into your food. It's unnecessary to have that. Those would expand and cause bloat as well too. You want a species appropriate raw fed diet. You can find that at Feed Primal, right? This is what Lisa and I promote. And or buying prey model diet, right? A raw diet. You can buy that if you want to buy it yourself. Those are the two things that we recommend. Um, you want them to digest their foods.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want them to settle down. You don't want to exercise right after eating. You don't want to go running around playing with your dog, so on and so forth. And this is only really for deep chested dogs. So again, go look it up. You can Google up. They'll show all the recommended deep chested dogs and what breeds they are. Okay, because I can't like spit out all the breeds. I'm just going to tell you about Great Danes because
Mm.
that's my breed, right?
Right.
And then just make better choices. I mean, that's all I would have for you for this particular procedure. I would tell your vet to go F itself. Okay. Like, no, I'm not going to do this for my dog. This is unnecessary. Here are my options. I'd rather do. I'd rather feed a raw diet. He might say that's not nutrition enough and it's bad for you. Okay. In one ear, out the other. There's no need for me to discuss my dietary needs with my dog because that vet has absolutely no nutrition education whatsoever.
Right.
Don't believe me, go look up what they have to learn in college. And then I just make sure that they don't go run around after they eat, and your dog will be fine,
Yes.
right? I don't think
And
there's much more that you have to say unless you have a story or something else you want to add, Lisa.
I just want to say is that it's fear that sells that makes all the profits. It's just all the time. If you don't get this vaccine, you're going to die from this disease. If you don't get this organ removed, you're going to die from that cancer. If you don't get this organ stapled to this part of your body, you're going to die from this. It's all fear. And it always comes back to the same principles that Lorina and I talk about over and over again, which is when you keep everything as close to nature as possible, all these things that we're taught to be afraid of are not, they're nothing. They don't scare you. They don't exist in this world. They just do not exist in our world. And so anytime uh, anyone recommends injecting poison, removing organs, stapling or sewing organs, just ask yourself, is this as close to nature as possible? Because if the answer is no, I guarantee you something worse is going to happen to your dog by doing those procedures. There
Yep.
will be side effects, there will be consequences, and for something that may never even have happened in the first place. I mean, my gosh, I don't know the statistics, but how many millions or hundreds of millions of dogs are in this country and how many get bloat each day? Like the statistics are probably pretty low comparatively with how many hundreds of millions of dogs there are and how many meals they eat per day. And,
Yep.
so to alter your dog in the name of prevention is just actually altering your dog in the name of profit. So
Yep. Yep. So
think
true.
twice.
Yep.
Speaking of profit, um, these kibble companies do not like this raw feeding revolution that is
Oh,
taking over our country. Um, they are pushing big fear about bird flu, which is also called H5N1, saying that it can spread into the dog food and then give it to the dog, and that raw dangerous our diets are now dangerous. Oh my gosh, could we talk about how insane this is? There is zero evidence that the bird flu is spreading through commercial raw diets. Okay, we all heard about the cat in what, Washington? Um,
Washington. Yep. With the
okay.
Darwin food,
With
which,
and the bag of food they tested was open, and so that goes against all protocols for safety testing. You can only test unsealed um bags of food. So it was everything. So, okay. So all the raw fed cats and dogs in the country, and this was also an outside cat, an indoor outdoor cat. Where did the cat get bird flu? If it even had bird flu, but they said it was the food, the raw food. So now it's everybody and we see this in the groups every day. Oh no, bird flu, I'm scared to feed my dog raw. Well, their propaganda was working then, wasn't it? Because this bird flu has been around for a long time and you weren't afraid of it until you were told to be afraid of it.
Yep.
Like nothing is new. This the bird flu is not new. It comes up every year, um, but now that you were told to be afraid of it, now you're afraid of it.
So let's look at this with the bird flu. Okay. Let's look at COVID. Okay. When COVID came out and they're like, oh, you're sick, go take this test. Remember the PCR, I think it's the testing process that they do it. Here's the test, go shove it up your little nose, right? Let it sit, put it in the whatever it was. I never did one, but I've watched people talk about it. And then boom, positive. Okay, I got COVID. Guess what? It's the same freaking test they're using for bird flu. And we all know how false positives those COVID tests are. It's exactly the same here. Why are they having these kind of tests? Guess who's benefiting off of this when there's bird flu and they're shutting down these plants and they're taking away where do you think all these dead chickens go to? Where do you think all these eggs they pulled off the market go to? Where do you think all these pet food industry foods are being where do you think those are going?
I got
The
an
kibble
idea.
industry is coming and buying it all for pennies on the dollar, if not just taking it for free for themselves to go and make their kibble and profit all of this. There's always a system, there's always people out there doing something to get something so that they can make something. And that's always this industry that wants to keep you blind, dumb, and sick. Right? They don't
All the
want you
time.
seeing anything. They don't want you knowing anything. They just want you to be ill in the head, ill in the body so that you can buy my product that I need you to buy to keep you in the state that you are. And that's where bird flu frickin' lies. It lies in the depths of Satan himself, of making sure everybody stays blind to what's happening. But let me share something with you. If you are really, really scared of bird flu, okay, maybe some of you out there, I don't know how you popped up on ours, but you're there and you're like, you kind of bird flu is kind of a thing, right? Let me take you down this journey or this road. Let's talk about kibble. Let's talk about where they get their products and how those products are sitting and what before they even render it. Okay. They're getting it from diseased animals, roadside kill. They're getting it from livestock processing plants that they are not livestock like lots where they go and they drop their dead livestock at. Okay, they're picking up at butchers, right? It could be all
Euthanized
right,
animals.
everywhere they're getting it. So when they take these products, whatever it is, whatever dead animal product that they have, and they take it to a rendering plant, do you think it goes right inside the rendering plant and they start making their products? No, they sit in barrels outside, like barrels of things, and they're just out there. It could be a euthanized animal, it could be a cow with a collar or a tag in its ear. They're not removing any of these things, okay? They're cutting it up. They're sitting in these barrels. And when they get to these barrels, guess what's already inside these barrels? Maggots. There's maggots growing and eating and festing on all of this.
Hmm.
They're taking this that already has maggots on it, and now they're putting it into the rendering where they render everything and make your meat byproducts or whatever they're going to call it, right? And they're going to make it into these pretty little nuggets that are cute and have color to it that it's going to make your dog just drool and want to eat it. And then you wonder why my dog is sick, or how did it get E. coli, or how did it get worms, or how did it get this when I've already dewormed it and I vaccinated and I did all of these things, but they're still occurring. because this is how the food industry works. This is what is in your kibble. Sometimes I have to get in depth and let you see these things. You can call me a liar. You can go YouTube this. You can go watch Pet Food. You can go do a lot of your own research and find exactly what I found with video that shows it. People that are investigating these particular plants and showing what is happening in this food industry for the dogs. Sitting here to lie to you, to feed you raw food. I'm telling you the truth so that once you know it, you can't go back to it. Right. So bird flu is part of this industry. It's part of how can we control the masses? May it be humans, right? If we can control the food, we can control what they eat, and we can push an agenda, whatever that might be. Maybe it's fake meat. Maybe it's keep food away that they can't buy, and then they'll be more compliant, right? Or we take this away because we don't like what's happening and people are learning by feeding healthy foods. They no longer need my services, my product, my wants for you to be a consumer of mine. And so that's what we open up here in our space. Don't you agree, Lisa, that we're opening up an opportunity for you to deep dive into what fills your cup to understanding what's happening with education you go and research about.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can listen to us all day long, but until you know it and feel it in your soul, it's just information that you don't do much with. But what happens to a dog when they eat raw food? They're healthy. So now the owners are not spending money on kibble. The owners are not spending money on vet bills. Now there's a problem in those industries. Their profits are tanking and they can't have that. So quick, cue the virus. That's their playbook. Oh, everybody's scared of a virus. Throw bird flu at them.
Monkeypox.
Oh gosh, I saw a headline recently, something about a deadly death in one of the states, and first in the United States. There, oh gosh, and so one person dies, and it's all of a sudden it's
Yeah, it's an
breaking
epidemic
news,
now. Yeah.
right? But it's like if you do not think that these people, they're after your money. And they will do it at the expense of your health, at the expense of your pet's health, whatever they can. These industries are downright evil. They are
Mhm.
not out looking for your best interest by feeding you quality kibble and quality vaccines.
And I want to pop in here because we had someone in our group, okay? And if you're listening to this, I'm not picking on you by any means. I'm just using this post as an example. And she talked about how her dog was on a particular raw food. And because of bird flu contamination, she decided to switch to a different raw food. Okay. And now that she's feeding this other raw food because it has beef testicles, it has all these things, she's like, my dog has a lot more energy. And it's kind of like causing some confliction in my home because the dog has more energy. And I'm like, well, it's not like it's giving it hormones, like it's supporting those
Hoarding the hormones
hormones
that are there.
in the body. So I'm not really thinking that's what it is. She showed a picture of the old food. Mind you, this is raw food, okay? Of the raw food she was buying, half that shit was synthetic vitamins and minerals in there.
Mm.
And I said, you know what? I can tell you why your dog was sluggish and was lazy and wasn't acting the way it is right now is because of those synthetic vitamins and minerals. It was placing stress on the kidney and liver, which was causing probably your dog to be a little bit more sluggish. And you were thinking it was calmness, right? Now that it's getting the proper foods without the vitamins and minerals, it's living its best life. It's like, hey, I got energy. Look at me. I feel good. Like, I
But
don't want
wait,
you to always think kibble is bad. We think kibble 100% is bad. But look at raw commercial foods, making sure there is not another part in there that could be contributing to keeping your dog not as healthy as it should be.
thank you for bringing that up, Lorena, because we will bash kibble to our last breath and we will promote raw until our last breath. But we have not talked about the commercial raw that might not be good for your dog. Any raw is going to be better than kibble, but don't think that all raw is going to be better, if that
Yep.
makes any sense. So, because If you really, really want simple ingredients in your dog's food, you do not. So, in Feed Primal, that's where we teach about how to make your own, which is great. And that by doing that, you know exactly what the ingredients are in your dog's food. If you're not going to do that, then you're going to go out and buy a pre-made. Those are your options. You can make it yourself, or you can buy it that someone else made it. You have to be careful to go through the ingredients on the pre-mades because, first of all, there's already a discussion between PMR and BARF. So, premodel raw or BARF, biologically appropriate raw food. PMR is meats, bones, and organs. BARF is going to be meats, bones, organs, fruits, and vegetables. I am in the camp of the dogs don't eat fruits and vegetables. Are occasional going to be fine? Sure. Does it need to be included in their daily diet every day? No. But in order to be considered complete and balanced by the AAFCO, which is the governing agency of dog food, which is the FDA of the dog food world, you got to have the fruits and vegetables. So that's confusing to people.
And you have to have the vitamins in there. They
If it's
have to
missing,
put certain
depending on
things.
the ingredients, if they're missing this ingredient, they got to
Yeah.
add this vitamin in. If they're missing
Here's
that,
one thing I have not seen in the barf industry. Okay. Like this is one thing I notice in all their foods is there's some form of seed oil in there. There's always some kind of seed oil to bind shit together. Why are we giving our dog seed oil? It's already in kibble. It's already, we all learn that this is inflammatory. Why are we putting other products into food for our dogs that doesn't need to be there? I don't see any dog out in the wild going, hey, can you pass me that canola oil over there and throw a little corn up in this bitch? Like they're not saying those kind of things, right? They're keeping it super simple. I'm going to eat the organs. I'm going to eat the brains in that prey's head, and then I'm going to eat the meat. And guess what? I'm going to take this bone and gnaw on it, or I'm going to take it to my pack so they can gnaw on it and eat it. And I'm going to help myself with that because I killed it, right? It's how an animal
that
it
that's
lives.
that's it. It does not need to be overcomplicated than that. And
No.
and you do not need to be tempted by additional ingredients that sound good. So let's just say there's not seed oil in your recipe, but there is apple cider vinegar and there is some mushrooms in it and some other things. Those sound good and healthy, right?
Yeah.
Guys, it's the same thing. It's just the other side of the coin. Like, keep it simple. What does a dog need? And it is meat and bones and organs. And can you want to throw in a couple of blueberries here? Do you want to throw in a raw carrot there to clean their teeth? Go ahead. That's fine. But to think that they need in every meal of every day that they need fruits and vegetables and
Fermented
squash.
vegetables. Like, oh, you got to make sure you get the fermented vegetables in there too. Like, great. It's like you could give it to your dog. I give my dogs periodically some little bit of yogurts, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like, just why I give it to them? Because there's a little bit left in my fridge.
Right.
Like, I'll be straightforward with you. I'm
Yes.
not like buying this shit to give to my dogs. I'm like, oh, these blueberries are starting to go a
They
little
go
bad.
bad. I'm either
I'm
going
gonna
to
throw
throw
it.
them out
Yeah,
or give them to the dog.
there you
Exactly.
go.
Yes.
Have it. But that's how my dogs get those extra things. It's not
Right.
like I'm buying it to put it on my dog's food to eat it every day.
No.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah. So it's just so please read the labels. And if you see synthetic vitamins listed on the label, don't buy that one. Move on to the next one. Um,
Yep,
because
I
those
agree.
synthetic vitamins, whether they're in kibble or whether they're in raw food, they are synthetic vitamins. And if you've listened to our past episodes, they are toxic to the body. And
Yep.
so we've been deceived on vitamins. We think they're great and filling in the gaps of health.
Mhm.
Maybe they
Wait
have.
till wait till we go into depth with vitamins and minerals in this industry because I do have a small little homestead farm, right? And I do buy feed for my animals. May it be some kind of grain, may it be some kind of chicken food, whatever it is, right? And there's vitamins, minerals in it. They put it. Did you know? And this is you guys can go research. We're not going to go into depth here. I'm gonna give you a little homework here so that you can come back and share with us. But I'm going to tell you something. You go look and see if I'm right or wrong, and then you come back and tell me. But in the industry of livestock and animals, there's only one company that makes vitamins and minerals. Doesn't matter if it's organic side or natural side. one big company, and then they have little developments underneath it that trickle down in each category of animals, but it comes from the same company, the very big company at the beginning. I learned this a couple years ago because we were deep diving more about why don't I just add this or add that to my feed? And a farmer, rancher shared with us. Did you already know that it doesn't matter if it's organic or not, there's only one company produces it. And it's all synthetic. All of it synthetic. Nothing is
Any
real.
anything that's synthetic, the body is going to reject because it is not natural, and your body is just going to work it's going to turn on the detox machine and work to get it out of the body. So, the bottom line is bird flu not a problem in raw food.
No,
I know
not
we
a
got
problem for humans either.
It's not
Okay,
a problem
let's
for humans. Yes, nobody needs to be afraid of bird flu. The only thing we need to be afraid of is the people that try to control our lives over, and we don't need to be afraid of them, but we need to be
be
afraid of the
aware.
people that comply with them. There we go. That's what you need to
Yep.
be afraid of. Be afraid of the people that comply with mandates because they're afraid of things that, da, da, da. You guys all know this. So don't have any fear with your raw food. Please research your raw food, make it yourself, or thoroughly look at the ingredients before feeding it to your dog, because you're feeding your dog raw because you want the best for your dog. So don't just blindly trust. Read labels. Read labels for everything. So that was exciting, which that was an excellent segue into our next topic, right? Because they
I
connect
love
together.
this. Yes, I
Okay.
love this
It,
particular topic we're about to dive into because
so
it's controversial
it is very
in the
controversial.
breeding world. This is controversial, okay? And also, I think a lot of people don't realize how important this particular part of your dog needs to stay intact.
So, bird flu has absolutely nothing to do with dew claws, so I didn't have an actual segue to that. So, we're just going to get right into it. So, I'm going to say, if you want to start a fight on social media, bring up dew claws and whether they should be kept or removed by the breeder.
Mhm.
So, Lorina, what are dew claws?
Okay, so dew claws are on the front paws or front paws of the animal or the dog. It's those higher nails that are up, kind of going into, I'm not the anatomy of a dog, but it goes the leg, right? On the side of the inside foot, on the front foot is where the dew claw lives, right? A lot of breeders will want to cut that dew claw, amputate it. Okay, let's use the real word here. Amputate out because you're cutting away in bone, tendons, and cartilage. So that is amputating away this claw because they think, oh, if we remove it, they won't injure themselves. Right. So
So,
that's the concept about it. Like you don't ever want that to rip out because, oh God, the bleeding, and then you're gonna have complications and so on and so forth.
so yeah, so it's like an extra toe, and they can have them on the front
Yeah.
or the back, and they
You
are
say it more diplomatic. I'm like, no, on the side. Go ahead.
That's okay. But they many people believe that they don't serve a purpose, and that if you leave them on, they can get snagged or caught up on something and get half ripped off, which is obviously a horrible thing. It can happen. Um,
Any
and
toe
so
can do that.
right. And well, your nails, the dog's
Mhm,
nails, they
mhm.
can easily get partially ripped off, or even the whole thing can get ripped off. There's some breeds of dogs that they're working and they're in the fences and the brush and they're, stuff like that. But so again, here is the recommendation to remove them from all dogs to prevent a potential problem in the future. But they actually have a role. That it
You really
just they
do.
think they're useless, but they're not. So this is where the other side of the story comes in, which
Yep.
is they have a functional role.
Yep. Like for one, it's really great to when they're puppies, right? And as they learn, they know how to utilize their paws and their claws to rip at things, to maneuver things, to dig, whatever that is. They're utilizing the whole function of their front feet And that dew claw is helping to stabilize what they're trying to achieve. Okay, so when you take that away, you're losing stability in those areas. And so this can affect joint health because it's supposed to be there to help with the joint. It is connected to so many nerves that this actually connects into their equilibrium. So that keeps you balanced, right? Have any of us had like something that caused us where our equilibrium went off and you're kind of dizzy or you're not stabilized correctly? This can affect a dog. So maybe this contributes into hip dysplasia. Maybe this contributes into some kind of long-term health problems in a particular breed, and that breed is removing dew claws. Like there could be connections there. I'm not saying it's absolute or if it's actually a thing. This is just me talking out loud that there could be a connection here. Removing the dew claws can actually prevent injure when they're trying to protect themselves or they're trying to get away or maneuver somewhere. The dew claws they help with so many preventable situations, and we're taking that away from them. What other things would you add to that, Lisa?
Well, I just want to say it's just they're so crucial for stability and traction.
Yep.
They're not useless. You mentioned that already. It's good for their joint health. It helps to stabilize their joints. And um, when you are removing these things, you're getting just the opposite. So now you don't have stability and traction. Now you're going to risk something other type of injury, right? You're going
Yep.
to have a torn CCL. You're going to have a sprain. You're going to have a strain.
Arthritis.
Yeah,
Arthritis. It's going to
it
develop
leads to
those kind of things.
arthritis. It's very painful to have them removed because it's you're removing like they call it what's the word? It's like a finger, right?
Yep.
It's not just a nail. It's a whole
You're
digit.
cutting into the bone, the tendons, and the cartilage. I mean, you're removing that. Sorry, my dogs are getting
Yeah,
ready to go outside, so if you can hear
yeah.
them barking.
I can't yet, but you never know.
Okay.
But it's like it's removing it's like if you had a finger amputated because they're like, oh, you never use that pinky, so we're just going to take it off when you're born.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so here's another thing. I hate to interrupt you here, but what about people that have had amputated limbs or something off, and then they have a phantom limb that's there? This happens to dogs as well too. It does. They may not communicate, but they can have pain. A dog can have pain, yet they take them in, they get an x-ray, they do blood work, they're looking at things, and they're like, we don't see anything, there's nothing here in their leg or their paw or their hip. I don't understand why it's hurting them. They can also have a phantom limb symptom.
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes back again to what I was saying at the first segment of the show when we're talking about, unnecessary medical procedures. Okay. This is, and I talked about removing body parts or stapling body parts. And really, it just always creates more problems. And it's always in the name of prevention. So now we've talked about stapling a stomach or stowing a
Right.
stomach in the name of prevention. We've talked about vaccines in the name of prevention. We talk about flea and tick and heartworm in the name of prevention. We're talking about removing dew claws in the name of prevention, possibly preventing an injury. Like all of these things done in the name of prevention are causing greater harm. Okay, so it's the same thing as we talked about earlier. It's like removing your breast so you don't get breast cancer. Will it prevent breast cancer? Well, of course you don't have breasts, but there's going
The
to be a
tissues
lot
are
of
still
other
there. There's
problems.
still cells there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, and it was a very traumatic procedure. Like you can't, they're just trying to avoid the entire basis of health, which is nutrition and lifestyle, and the immune system. And they're trying to pretend that God never gave anyone or anything an immune system.
Yep.
And that we're on our own to just fight off all the viruses and bacteria in the world and give as many drugs as we can to help keep them healthy. And let's remove as many body parts that God created so that we don't have problems with those body parts. Go ahead and neuter your dogs so they don't get testicular cancer. Go ahead and remove dew claws so they don't get them caught on something and get ripped off. Like, what about the dogs that are just little house dogs, right? That they're not out working dogs that have no chance of ripping a dew claw.
Yep.
They go
Yep.
on leash walks every day with their family. They're sleeping on their bed at night. They're watching Netflix. Like those dogs, where's the argument for them,
Yep. Yep. I mean, I live on a farm. My dogs rip around. You have good property on your land. Your dogs are ripping around. My dogs are going all over the place. We walk them, free walk them. They go in and out of creeks and underneath barbed wire. And, like I have those kind of things in my area. And none of my dogs have ever ripped a dew claw. Okay. They've never
no.
had it, but bring in complications. So let's just say, okay, I like to remove dew claws. Let's just say that's my thing. But with everything, there's always complications, right? Any kind of surgery, there could be infections. There can be that it was an incomplete removal of a dew claw, and the tissues start to try to grow back the nail, which now is not growing the way it should. And now we have to do a more extensive surgery to get it removed later in life. There's pain, there's infection, there's bacteria. There's a lot of things that could be happening in that area that you remove. This is not an uncommon thing to happen. It's just not talked about so often because they want to normalize it to think
It's
this is
just,
such an easy procedure,
oh
right?
yeah, we do it all the time. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, but see, the thing is that most breeders will do these to very, very young, very, very young puppies.
Oh,
Um,
2, 3 days old.
so can you imagine the trauma right after birth of having a dew claw removed? Like that
Yep.
is extremely painful and traumatic, and that imprints on those puppies. That
Yep.
trauma is there with them for the rest of their lives. They might, they don't necessarily need therapy, but that is part of
If
their.
they could talk, they probably would.
Oh, if they could talk, if they'd be like, let me tell you about my owner. No, let me tell you about my owner. Um, but so it's just we have, and it's just insane how far we have gotten away from God's natural design
Yep.
just because we're scared. We're so scared of everything. We're scared of
People want to
ripping a
put
dew
a
claw.
bubble over
I
a dog that's
give
supposed to
Do
play
it all.
outside. Yeah.
Do it all so my dog doesn't ever get sick or hurt. You know what? Here's
Those,
another something to think
those are the
about.
dogs that get sick and
Um,
hurt all the time.
exact. My dogs, they're not vaccinated. They're not. No, their stomachs are wherever they're supposed to be. They have their dew claws. Like, and guess what? They're not getting sick or hurt. Believe it or not, there is a way to protect your dog from these things, and it doesn't harm them. It doesn't
Yep.
cost you money. You just have to trust that God made things perfect, and if we support God's design, they are going to thrive. And it's when we start messing with God's design, we start running into problems. We've just gotten too far
100%.
away. We've gotten
Yep.
too far away from the evil scientist, from God, and we're trusting the evil scientists that are making big money off of our
Yeah.
dogs.
Dew claw removal is a cosmetic surgery. Let's just put it out there. This is not a necessary anything. It's all cosmetic. It's like circumcising your son. We don't need to go down that road, but that's a cosmetic surgery, just like
Traumatic,
removing, traumatic, but it's unnecessary.
right?
But people do it because it's embedded that this is what needs
What
to
you
be done.
do,
We're like the only country that freaking does this, really, right?
right?
Well, let me tell you, with dew claws, there are two major countries that this is banned in. You can't do this in the UK, especially some other little European countries, and Canada. Canada
Oh,
has banned this as a cosmetic a surgery that is unnecessary. Unless it's necessary, that's when they remove it. But this is actually banned in Canada.
So when they become our 51st state, can they
Yep.
do it again? Sorry, I had to throw that in there. So yeah, these are barbaric procedures that we're doing to
Yeah.
our dogs. We are like it's barbaric and it's normalized and it's got to end. And until you stop saying no to the breeder, I don't want the dew claws removed. They're going to keep doing it until you say to the breeder, I don't want you to vaccinate the puppy. Once they start losing sales because people don't want to vaccinate a puppy, they're going to be like, oh, what's going on? Once they start losing sales because they're using chemical dewormers or because they're doing amputations on 2 or 3 day old puppies, they're going to rethink their business. As long as we keep buying them as is and complaining like, oh, the breeder did this and I wish they hadn't. You bought it. You gave the breeder the money and you gave the breeder a license to keep doing what they're doing.
Yep.
So think
Can't play
real
on both
hard next
sides of the
time.
tracks. You can't play on both sides of the tracks. You got to pick the side that you want to support and stay over there, right? That breeder doesn't want to not vaccinate your dog. You don't buy from that breeder. If that breeder wants to take the dew claw off on all their puppies because this is what they've been doing all these years, you don't buy your puppy from them. They want to deworm their puppy. You don't want to buy from them. You say, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and take my business elsewhere because this person over here, I'm going to search and find the person that aligns with the same value I want in my dog. That's like anything that we do in life. It shouldn't just be your dogs. If you follow a certain guideline of your religious belief, your political belief, whatever family value belief, you should do the same thing with your dog and not compromise. We don't
Right.
compromise. I don't compromise and go, well, it's the only man that's been talking to me. I guess I'll just marry him. Even though, like we don't do
Yeah.
that. Like we don't just
Yeah.
compromise for somebody. We're like, nope, I'll pass. Guess I'll stay single a little bit longer because someone will come that will align with my values. It's like with
Yeah.
my daughter. She has certain things that she wants a man to align with her. She doesn't want someone that believes in vaccines. She doesn't want someone that believes a mom should go and work unless she chooses she wants to. She wants to stay and be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
She has values that a man that she wants to spend life with aligns with those values. Well, the same thing with you, dog parents. Don't just be impatient because you're impatient to get a dog right now at this second that the breeder that you want to get it from doesn't have a dog for you right now. So you go on a Craigslist and you buy whatever the hell you want and think you can save it later. Like that's not how you do this.
Yeah. And I just, real quick, it's just this morning on a Facebook post, a girl says, I don't want the breeder to vaccinate, but I think she will. What do I do? And everybody says, just don't get the dog. Don't get the dog. She says, well, I already put down a deposit and I hate to be out that deposit. And I literally responded back to her and I said, you will spend way more. It was a $500 deposit. You will spend way more than $500 on vet bills and trainers and behavioralists that you'll spend way more than $500 on all of that than just trying to save yourself the $500 and deal with a lifetime of problems. So choose wisely. But
Yep.
I'm telling you, everybody who's listening, please listen. Like every time you might be completely against vaccines, you might be completely against kibble, you might be completely against a lot of things, or even if it's just vaccines, you don't even know about the other stuff yet, but you don't vaccinate your kids, you don't vaccinate yourself, and you don't want your dogs vaccinated. But every time you give money to someone that does, you give them permission and tell them it is okay to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
You're telling them it's okay to keep harming the dogs. And so it's like Lorina said, it's not about I want this puppy now or I love him and we've been looking at his pictures for 6 weeks. I get it. I've fallen in love with puppies online. I've been pictures from the breeder and counted the days until I could bring my puppy home. I get that. But in the big scheme of things, what are you supporting? What are you promoting? Well, who are you helping? It's all about doing what's right, even when sometimes it sucks.
It really does. But you got to pick your lane. You got to pick the side of the track that you want to play in and where you want to invest your money and where you want to lie in. Because if you don't, this system will not stop. And
No.
we can't just go, well, it just had its puppy shots and I won't do anymore. It doesn't work that way. You have to
Mhm.
stop it before they even get the puppy shots, right? You can't buy into that because it's still the same system you don't like. And you just got to do that. So I
I'm
think,
telling you, I'll just say this real quick, but
yeah,
if a breeder starts losing sales because people are saying, I don't want my puppy vaccinated, and the breeder's like, well, no, I'm vaccinating, and then they start losing sales, there's, I'm telling you, that's how you make change. And it happens fast. It's not like it's going
very
to take
fast.
decades to work. They're going to be like, oh, wow. Their first step is going to be like, okay, I need to open my options up to where I won't vaccinate these requested puppies. But then they're like, oh, this is becoming a real thing now. Why aren't they vaccinating puppies? Why do all
Yep.
these people? So then they're going to start researching it, that they're going to start learning. And it's not that they're bad people. This is just all they know. And it's all they've been taught. And
Mhm.
it's all that everybody else does. So they're doing what they think is right. But you know what? And they're going to keep doing it. You can be pouty and mad and throwing a fit. And my puppy was vaccinated. Now do I detox it? And I'll never get him another one. Doesn't matter. You bought the puppy. You gave the breeder the money. You bought the puppy, and you supported vaccinating puppies. Bottom line, I don't care how much you are against it. You're not that much against it if you spent thousands of dollars on it. So, just you see us come back to a lot of the same issues because it all ties back into the same thing every single
Yep.
time. But not next week, or next episode, I mean. Oh,
It's a good one.
we're
That's a good one. Um, like we try to bring so much to our table. We could sit here and talk about raw food and vaccines and chemical products, probably every episode we're on. We can beat that horse every single time that we come on here, but we really want to bring value in other areas, maybe areas you don't know about, right? We talked about podism our last episode, and you're probably going, holy shit, what? Like I'd never even heard of this. Now we're talking about three different, twist of events of three different kind of areas. The gastroplex, we talked about bird flu, we talked about dew claws, like bringing awareness to this. But our next episode that
mm,
I'm like thrilled to share because this hits home for me. There's areas that people don't like me talking or us talking about shelters and rescues and the Humane Society and so on and so forth. There's a reason why people don't want you talking about it. It's because of the system that's in place there. One
you
of the
guys,
systems that we're gonna be hitting
we're
on.
going to be exposing some things that you guys will be shocked to hear. That have you ever heard anybody say adopt, don't shop? Um, okay, where did that come from? Does it sound like stay home, save lives, where people are literally programmed to repeat the same thing, but they don't even actually understand what that actually means or the insanity behind it, right? It's guys, all I'm saying is stay tuned because you're really going to you're going to be shocked to hear what we have to tell you. And it's not what you think, it's not what we thought.
Well, we gotta tell them. We gotta give them a little something
I don't
here, right?
know, Lorena. I don't know. I mean, you could give him like give him one smidgy. I give you five words. No, like, uh,
Seriously, I did a post on Instagram and I dropped the two words that
right.
we're looking at here, and I had people messaging me, like literally messaging me. What do you mean about this?
All right.
And
Tell him what it is.
I
Tell him you
said,
got,
stay tuned. I'm not going to deep dive with you right now. I'm not even going to show you links yet. Like, I am not going to give you anything until our podcast comes out. But let me tell you, we are going to come on here and talk about dog trafficking.
yeah, you heard that
Okay.
right. You heard it
Yep.
right.
Yep. I'm not talking about child trafficking, which is horrific in itself. But wait till you learn about dog trafficking.
Because I bet you didn't know it was a thing. We do all know about
Uh,
sex trafficking,
we
about human
we didn't
trafficking,
even
child.
know. We
Mm-mm.
didn't even know when we were diving into this topic. We didn't even know the depths when that was shared to us. And Elisa and I were like, "Oh, right?" Like we were like, "What in the world is going on here?" And
Yeah.
now we are going to bring it to our audience. And you guys are going to be baffled. You're going to be pissed. You're going to be angry. You're not going to believe it. You're going to believe it. There's going to be a lot of emotions happening.
Yeah.
We're here for it.
Yeah, there we are. So we're excited to bring that to you. We thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us. It means so much to us because we're really on a mission to save the dogs. And the more we can get out to you and the more you can share our podcast with everyone, the more truth we can get out there, the more dogs day by day. Trust me, it makes a difference. It makes an impact. I promise you it does because we're normalizing the way back to the way God made the dogs, and that is saving their lives. So thank you so much. And don't forget our next episode, dog trafficking.
Yeah. Yeah. And from our show today, any of the show notes that I feel like we should put some links down there so you can educate yourself more. We're going to put that down there. Remember to share our show out there. Follow us, like us, leave us 5 stars, please. We work hard to bring the information to you. We're very passionate about it. Share us out to your people, your followers, your friends, your community. The people you feel needs to learn more about the dog world and how nature is number one for how they should be living. And make sure you come and join our Pause Unplug Facebook group. Everybody is welcome. It is free. We share great information. The community in there helps everybody. So we welcome everybody to come and learn from us and our community. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining in with us, and we will chat with you soon. I can't wait till our next episode. I say that every time because I think everything we bring to the table, everybody needs to know about.
Me too. I agree with that.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.